Greetings of the day to all my dear students. I hope that you all are good and safe at your home. So, in today's video lecture, we shall start with a very beautiful and sweet inspirational story. A woman once came to Gandhiji and asked him to please tell her son to give up eating sugar. Gandhiji asked the woman to bring the boy back in a week. Exactly 1 week later, the woman returned, and Gandhiji said to the boy, "Please give up eating sugar." The woman thanked the Mahatma, and as she turned to go, asked him why had he not said those words a week ago. Gandhiji replied, "Because a week ago I had not given up eating sugar." Such a beautiful thought and so pleasant and good words. Be the change you want to see in the world. If you want to change something, that change you are supposed to start from yourself, within your own self. No one else is going to do that for you. And always remember that the betterment starts from our own self. So if we will be becoming better, of course the world is going to change one day, and that is slowly but surely. So now let us proceed. This is Shreya Jadhav welcoming you all to my e-learning channel, and today we are going to learn English grade 9 chapter 7 packing, written by Jeremy K. Jeremy. So before starting with the reading and explanation of the same, let us know something about the author. Jeremy K. Jeremy was born on May 2, 1859 in Cladmore, Walsall, England. He obtained his school education at St. Mary Lebon Grammar School. He was English writer and humorist. He is best known for comic travelogue Three Men in a Boat. Apart from this, he wrote some essays collection: Idle Thought of Idle Fellow, Second Thought of an Idle Fellow, Three Men of Bummel, and some other novels. He breathed his last breath on June 14, 1927. Jeremy's father died when he was only 13, and his mother died when he was 15. He was brought up in poverty in London. Jeremy wished to enter politics or be a man of letters, but the death of his parents forced him to quit his study and find work to support himself. Introduction for answer. Dear students, always remember to start your answer with introduction. This creates a really good impact. So here it is. Prose name Pecking. Author's name Jeremy K. Jeremy. Genre short story. Summary. In the story, the author tells us that before starting any journey, we should plan and prepare well for it. Otherwise, we have to face a lot of difficulties. So now, let us move to the summary of the chapter. In the story Packing, the author Jeremy K. Jeremy tells us that before starting any journey, we should plan and prepare for it well. Otherwise, we have to face a lot of difficulties. We should not take any task very easy or leave it on others. Our life is also a journey, and we meet with complex situations many times. while continuing our journey. But if we have pros to deal with them, we do not have to experience too much pain. Through the story, the author tells us that the thing that seems to be very easy may not be as easy as we think. Packing things in a bag is not a difficult task, but it made a mess because it was not done with proper plan. So, the three friends, George, Harris, and Jeremy, the narrator, decided to go on a holiday. Jeremy was very proud of his packing, so he offered to do the task of packing the bag. The narrator hated other people relaxing while he was working. Harris asked the narrator that whether he had put the boots in the package. He opened the bag and packed the boots into the bag. When he was going to close his bag, a horrible idea came to his mind. If he had packed his toothbrush, he turned everything. He found toothbrushes of George and Harris more than 18 times, but could not find out his toothbrush. He put the things back one by one. Then he found it inside a boot and packed the things once more. The bag finally got finished at 10:05 p.m. Now, the task of packing hampers was taken by George and Harris, on which narrator agreed. Both started packing in a cheerful nature, showing narrator how to do. However, according to narrator, Harris was the worst packer in the world. They broke a cup. Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of tomato and squashed it. George stepped on the butter. They packed the peas at the bottom and squashed them by putting heavy things over them. They upset everything. George got the butter off his sleeper and dragged it out all and put it down the chair. Harris sat on it and butter stuck on him. They searched the whole room but couldn't be able to find it. Lastly, George got round at the back of Harris and saw it. They got it off and packed it in a teapot. Thus they made a mess. Montmorency, a pet dog, also disturbed them a lot. He came and sat down on things just when they were wanted to be packed. He put his leg into the jam and he pretended that the lemons were rats, and they got into the hamper and killed 3 of them before Harris could lend him with the frying pan. Harris said it was the narrator who encouraged the dog for these things. Finally, the packing was done at 12:50. They decided to go to sleep. George asked when he should wake them. A little argument, they decided to wake up at 6:30. So, this is all about the summary of the chapter. I said I would pack. I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. I'm impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. They fell into the suggestion with readiness that had something uncanny about it. George spread himself over the easy chair, and Harris cooked his legs into the table. So over here, in the beginning, the writer is starting that he has declared to his friends that he would be very comfortable with pecking. So the pecking compartment or area would be given to him. And over here the writer is telling that he was really very proud, he was having a pride within himself that he is an excellent person in pecking, and no other living person on this earth can peck so well like him. And he is also saying that there are many other things which impresses him a lot. And moreover to that, he had told George and Harris about that the whole matter of pecking would be entirely given to him. They fell into the suggestions that they are not supposed to have any sort of tension regarding that. So George spread himself on an easy chair, and Harris also spread his legs on the table. So both of them were having a really good comfort. This was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job, and that Harris and George should potter about under my direction. I pushed them aside every now and then with, "Oh, you here, let me do it." There you are, simple enough, really teaching them, as you might say. They are taking it in the way they did irritated me. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. When the author told that he would be doing all the packing, both of his friends, they just had a really pastime or having a really good time. And at that time, author thought that he would be just means he was best, means he would just guide both of them how to pack. He didn't wanted himself to do all these things, and he also believed that he was a good supervisor sort of thing. And every now and then they were disturbing the writer a lot, not by playing some tricks, but the writer was irritated whenever he watched them just sitting idly, and they used to irritate him because every now and then the writer needed some things or others. And whenever he would say that, "Oh, you are supposed to stand up and give me this, you are supposed to hand me over this," so this continuously made him more likable, that he was very irritated, and he didn't like when he was working and other people were doing just nothing, they were just sitting idly. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He could loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said it did him real good to look at me messing about. Now I'm not like that. I can't sit still and see men slaving and working. I want to get up and superintend and walk around with my legs in my hands in my pockets and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature. I can't help it. So eventually what happened that the writer is sharing one of his experience that he used to live with one of the men who would not make him really angry, and that person would not just sit for hours on the sofa, and he would not keep on watching the author how mad and mess he would make while packing things, and that made him really very funny. And the author told that at initial stage he was a bit messy, but now he had become really very good enough. And moreover to that, his desire was to superintend all the people and to walk around with his hands in his pockets and tell everyone what to do. That was his energetic nature, and he can't help out of it. However, I did not say anything, but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be. But I got the bag finished at last, and I sat on it and strapped it. "Ain't you going to put the boots in?" said Harris, and I looked around and found I had forgotten them. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I had got the bag shut and strapped, of course. And George laughed. One of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. So now eventually what happened, that the writer thought that this packing would not take a longer time, but eventually it took a really long time duration, because packing was supposed to be done for 3 persons, and now it seemed that it was a long job. But somehow he finished. He closed the bag and he strapped it. And then after completing everything, Harris told that, "Aren't you going to pack these boots inside?" And when the author looked behind, at that time he came to know that, oh gosh, he had forgotten. And that was the habit of Harris, that when everything is done and we feel that now we are supposed to relax, at that time only Harris would say that this thing is left. And this tendency the author didn't like of Harris, and George was laughing, and his laugh made the author really, we can say, no, irritable, and that made him really very angry and wild. I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and then, just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. Had I packed my toothbrush? I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. I dream that I haven't packed it, and wake up in cold perspiration and get out of the bed and hunt for it. And in the morning, I pack it before I have used it and have to unpack it again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag. And then I repack and forget it, and have to rush upstairs for it at least the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped in my pocket handkerchief. So over here, now what happened? That no, always he used to forget. Now he is sharing some of the other incidences, that whenever he just opened the bag and he just packed the boots in it, and at that time duration when he was closing, he got an idea that whether he had packed his toothbrush or no. And that was the question which always used to haunt him every now and then. And whenever these sort of thought would come, in the middle of the night also, he would get these sort of thoughts, and he would just wake up in the middle of the night with full perspiration, and he would go and check, and it would be in his bathroom, and again he would go and pack into his bag. Early in the morning, when he was supposed to use it, again he would unpack the bag and take the toothbrush and brush it, and then again he would pack it, and again then he would forget it whether he had packed it or not. So again this cycle was continuously happening with him, and even at the end he used to forget it. So there we can say that he didn't had any sort of proper analysis of how the things are supposed to be carried. Moreover to that, he was in so rush that he would carry the toothbrush to the railway station, and it would be wrapped up in a pocket handkerchief. Of course, I had to turn every mortal things out, and now, of course, I could not find it. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created. And when chaos reigned, of course, I found George and Harris 18 times over, but I couldn't find my own. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. So now you can see this image that have all the three of them, no, in center you can see the author Jeremy is packing the bag and everything has been spread and he was searching for his toothbrush. Now he was searching for every little thing in the bag, the shoes and clothes and bottles and pouches, but from where did he eventually found his toothbrush? He found his toothbrush inside the boot, and when he saw, he again repacked everything. You can see in the picture describes everything, how everything is messed up and how those two of his friends are really teasing the author that he is not having the ability for the same. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether a soap was in or whether it wasn't. And I slammed the bag shut and strapped it, and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. I got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. and then they reminded the hampers to do. Harris said that he should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours' time and thought that he and George had better do the rest. And I agreed and sat down and they had to go. So now what happened? Finally everything was over. And no, George had that tendency of putting all things at the last. And then George asked that have you packed the soap in it or not? And at that time the author became really very angry. And he told that he didn't care at all whether the soap was packed or not, and he just slammed his bag and shut it up and strapped it. And he found out that he had packed his spectacles inside the bag, and he again reopened it and he again shut his bag. And finally it was 10:05 p.m. and then there remained the hampers to do. Harris said that now they are having less than 12 hours to leave, and then that they must sleep now because they need a good sleep. And they both agreed and they sat down. They began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intended to show me how to do it. I made no comment, I only waited with the expectation of George. Harris is the worst packer in this world. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and peas and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc. and felt that the thing would soon become exciting. It did. It started with breaking a cup. That was the first thing they did. They did that just to show you that what they could do and get to you up interested. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of tomato and squashed it. They had to pick out the tomato with teaspoons. So now it was the time for George and Harris to pack up the things. And at that time, the writer is telling that Harris was the world's worst packer. And moreover to that, they have made up piles of each and everything of, we can say, of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and peas and stoves, cakes, tomatoes, plenty of things. And then the author thought that something really interesting was going to happen. And it did also. And it started with breaking up a cup. And that was the first thing which broke. And then that fun and excitement started. That interesting thing began, yes? And at that time duration, Harris had packed the strawberry jam on the top of tomato. And all the tomatoes were squashed. And because of that thing, They were supposed to pick out the tomatoes with the teaspoons. Just imagine how awful and horrible everything could be. And then it was George's turn, and he trod on the butter. It didn't say anything, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. I felt that it made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on the things and put things behind them and then couldn't find them when they wanted them. And they pegged the piece at the bottom and put heavy things on it and smashed the piece in it. So now you can see that how Harris and George, both of them are packing. Now eventually what happened, that they were supposed to pack the butter and peas and everything. Now it became very difficult for them to manage all things, because they had just put all things in a haphazard position. They didn't worried at all. They put all the things which were not easily mashable at the bottom, and they have put all the heavy things on the top of it. So over here they are been saying that the writer Jeremy didn't say anything, but it irritated them a lot, that without even saying, they felt that they were nervous as well as they were excited. They were stepping on one things or other. They used to put behind the things and they would forget it. They could not find it where they are supposed to keep it, and everything was such a mess in and around. They packed the piece at the bottom and put all the heavy things on the top of it, and they mashed the piece inside it, the bag. Again they removed everything, and again they were supposed to pack up all things, and this thing was continuously going on, and this made author laugh a lot at all the time. So you can see, how messed up they all were. They upset salt over everything. As for the butter, I never saw two men do more than 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. After George had got it off his sleeper, they tried to put it in the kittle. It wouldn't go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. They did scrape it out at last and put it down on the chair, and Harris sat on it and stuck to him, and they went on looking for it around the room. So eventually everything was very messed up, and they had upsetted salt everywhere, but at every place salt was being sprinkled, as well as in butter. But the writer is telling that he had never seen two men messing up things at this great extent, and the butter was brought so much that everything was spilled. They have packed up his sleeper in kitli, and they were now in such a condition that they were not able to remove it also, the sleeper, from the kitli. Neither they could keep it over there, and at that time duration, by mistake, they have put the butter on side, and they were not aware that where it was. So Harris unknowingly sat on the butter, and it stuck on his back. Yes, and then they were searching for butter every now and then, but they didn't find it anywhere in the whole room. So how messed up they are in packing, right? So dear students, today we are keeping it till here. I hope that you have understood the chapter till here. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. In the next video, in part 2, we shall complete the chapter. Thank you.